Man, that sacrifice two stones proverb, it sort of made sense when I read it, but then after watching the Michael Redman video that was recommended to me from last week, it's such a no-brainer. I understand it completely now, and it's like as simple as two stones takes like way more liberties to capture than the one stone in Atari, which has one liberty left. And that is like so simple. And it's like, just put one more in there and make them have more work to capture that stone. It makes it so simple to me. And I didn't know why I didn't understand it, but that was a great Michael Redman video. I'm going to link it again in this description so you guys can see it if you're interested in it. You're listening to Starpoint, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board. Let's talk about kibitzing. So, what is kibitzing? Kibitzing is, well, let's look it up. It says, late 19th century, from German kibitzen, or compare with Yiddish kibitzen, and also German kibitz, interfering onlooker. Let's take a look at the Wikipedia entry for kibitzer. Kibitzer, a person who kibitzes, is a Yiddish term for a spectator, usually one who offers often unwanted advice or commentary. The term can be applied to any activity, but is most commonly used to describe spectators in games such as contract bridge, yes, chess, Go, and some German-looking game that I don't know how to pronounce, Schafkopf. Looks like a card game. So, kibitzing, just to put it simply, is looking at a game that you're not playing and commenting on it out loud for people to hear. There's actually an example of this that appears in Hikaru no Go early on in the episodes, where Hikaru is observing a game that two people are playing, and Sai, his Go genie, I guess you could call him a ghost, comments that the player missed the move and should have played a certain other move, which is fine because Sai, the only one who can hear Sai is Hikaru. And Hikaru goes ahead and blurts that whole thing out loud to everybody, even the players playing, which ruins the game, and they have to reset and things like that. And that's kind of what kibitzing is when it's not acceptable. Let's see what the Sensei's Library page says on kibitzing, just to reiterate. Kibitzing is giving commentary to an ongoing game. The person giving the kibitz is a kibitzer, while in real life, kibitzing on a serious game within earshot of the players is considered extremely rude. Online kibitzing is far more lenient. I actually have a converse opinion on that, and I'll explain a little more later. Many servers have a chat box to the right of the board. Using KGS as an example, the chat box is shared by the players and the spectators. Comments by the spectators are visible only to the spectators, while comments by the players are visible to everyone. This way, the spectators can discuss the ongoing game without disrupting the players. It is wise to be polite to the other players commenting as a spectator. While the comments are invisible during the game, they become visible to the players as soon as the game is over. Thus, your comment, "White is a really stupid player" on move 3 of the opening may be invisible at first, but the person playing white will still see this after the game and most likely be offended. So that is a good description of the mechanics of kibitzing online. And I want to talk about all of the things surrounding kibitzing and what it is, and let's start with what's wrong with kibitzing during a game. Well, it's like the equivalent of, let's say you're at a basketball game and an audience member all of a sudden jumps up out of their seat, goes into the middle of the court, grabs the ball and says, "Wait, hold on, I want to take a shot from this angle," and then the whole game is ruined and has to be stopped. Well, that's kind of like what happens when somebody kibitzes during Go. You may not be grabbing the stones and putting them on the board and being very physical with it, but Go is a game of ideas between two players, And so to give any input and advice, or even just like a little, right? Even just a small thing like that, if somebody plays a move and you're just like, really? That can actually change the outcome of the game. So generally speaking, especially in competitive settings, you're not supposed to kibitz. The phrase being no kibitzing, right? You go to a game and then they'll say things like no kibitzing, don't kibitz, right? And that's what it means. Don't talk out loud and give these players any feedback regarding their moves. It's kind of similar to the coaching thing in tennis. So in most competitive sports, coaching is integral to the game, and coach is kind of part of the team. In tennis, although the coach is very, very important to the role of the tennis players, in the game itself, you're not really allowed to coach and tell the players how to play during the game. And that's because tennis is kind of like chess and Go in a dual psychological sense, where the game is very much about reading the other opponent and sussing them out. And so in tennis, the culture has evolved to limit coaching as much as possible during the game to allow the skills of the tennis players to shine through during the match, rather than it being kind of a brain and brawn split type of game, I guess. I don't know too much about how the history, led up to this point, but it's a unique sport in that sense. And Go is basically the same thing. It's a battle of the minds. So kind of a coaching mentality is adding this input that is mental from another player or another mind, and that is seen as an interference with the game itself. But kibitzing is not always wrong. In fact, back in the day, when I wasn't really too into Go, but when KGS was around, you could, it stands for the Kasedo Go server, but you might call it the Kibitzing Go server, because it was a very tight-knit Go community where people talked about Go all the time. They shared games, they reviewed together, they talked, and I remember going back to KGS for a couple games just to see if I could get a rank for myself. And the couple players that I played, they would just make conversation with me. And during the game, we would just talk. And it was a very social server, I think. Whereas in OGS, it's a little different. I feel that the culture is a little stiffer. Maybe there are pockets of lively players here and there who talk a lot amongst each other. But overall, OGS players are kind of quiet, much like the Fox players. And I don't think that's to blame the OGS players themselves, but it's just a little bit weird to be talking sometimes. Like, do you know if they want to talk, or do you like, some people want to just play the game, some people want to socialize, but it'll most likely default to just playing the game. And then in terms of kibitzing, even though there is that aforementioned guard to hide conversational comments from observers, from the actual players, it seems a little weird sometimes to go into a game and just talk about it when it's just a random game. It just kind of feels a little bit, I don't know, I feel that I would hesitate to do that, especially since usually when I go in to spectate a game, I don't have anybody else to talk to. It's usually just me. And, there's no kind of reason for multiple people to gather around a game. When I do see a lot of kibitzing, a lot of talking about a game, is when there are replayed pro games or famous game, or not famous, but like well-publicized games on OGS hosted. A lot of people like to talk about the moves and discuss what's happening, like pro qualifications games and big title matches in general. There's a lot of discussion because it's like, well, they're pros and they're not looking at OGS. They're not going to, and this is not even their account. This is just a relayed account. So let's talk about it. Let's have fun. Let's talk about it. And so there's none of that like kind of hesitation of like, oh, I don't know these people. I don't know if I want to talk about their game in front of them. And like, you know, that a lot of that is like an etiquette thing, right? You don't want to just kind of give unwarranted advice at times. So it often doesn't feel quite appropriate to kibitz or talk during a game on OGS, and that there's no one often to kibitz with. There is a Malkovich chat, which not really kibitzing type of feature, but if you don't know, Malkovich mode is a little drop down that you can select on OGS while you're playing a game, and if you change it to Malkovich, whatever you type won't be visible to the other player, so you can kind of it's based on a movie, I believe, Being John Malkovich, and whatever you type in that box, it's like you can just express what you're thinking, your strategy, and reveal your intentions behind the moves, because the opponent won't be able to see it until the end of the game. And so that's the point of the Malkovich chat, is to just kind of comment. And I have seen some OGS players do that during the game, and it's actually quite helpful. And I think I should probably do that more often, just so that the game feels a lot more reviewable, and that my opponent can get some insights at the end of the game of what I was thinking. It's quite useful, but I don't think many people use it, and I certainly haven't used it very much. But I imagine if you were to have two players use Malkovich chat all throughout the game, it would be a very rich SGF full of insights. Kibitzing, though, I feel not very common at online. So maybe that Sensei's Library article was written in the KGS era, which is why they said it's more encouraged during online play, whereas now I don't feel it's very alive. But on the other hand, when I attend Go clubs and such, people love to talk about the games, and it's like easier to understand the social cues if you're at a Go club and you see a game. You're probably friends with the players that you're observing, so you kind of know their approach to the game, what they're okay with, what they're not okay with. You're likely playing a more casual game. Usually these games are not ranked in any way, and so it doesn't really matter too much. And people like to socialize at Go clubs, so it would be kind of silly for them to all sit there in silence, not talk about Go at all, and just play for the entire duration. So I feel the context of a Go club is a lot more welcoming for kibitzing and conversation and talking about Go. And I feel like that's one of the greatest things about going to a club, just talking about the moves during or after the game. The thing is, I do know that a lot of people like to review games, and that's kind of their primary way of talking about Go, or talking about their games. But the problem I've always had of reviewing games is the latency of it and the delayed feedback. I've mentioned this on a previous episode. But when you review a game, you kind of lost the moment, you know? Like, oftentimes you don't remember why you made certain moves during which part of the game. And so at the end of the game, when you're saying like, oh, I moved here because I thought this would give me influence, and then the other person's like, oh, I forgot why I did this move in response to that, because I clearly see now that there is influence that to be had there. And then you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, let's move on, right? It's hard to create a good feedback loop. So I think kibitzing is, well, not even just kibitzing, because kibitzing is really talking about onlookers and observers talking about the game. But even during the game, I remember seeing a Reddit post recently on Arbaduk asking if there were any games where both players are narrating their own moves. And that's kind of a fun idea, but I don't see it anywhere. It's not a very common thing to have because it's when you play a game, you want to compete with one another. And so that kind of defeats a lot of the purpose of competing. And so you don't see that very often. A couple of examples where I have seen that in mind, I think, Nick Sabicki versus Andrew Jackson videos on YouTube. Those videos, they're playing in front of a classroom and they're both talking very much about their moves. And then I have seen a series between Ryan Lee and Stephanie Yin. They have played I remember some holiday videos where they played against each other. And I loved those videos because not only was it that they were talking about the game during the game, they would switch back and forth between perspectives. So it was, they would play in separate rooms online and they would each narrate their games. And I thought that was very insightful. But I think overall, I would support more conversation during games. And I think Go is so intimidating. Go is such an intimidating game. And when you're alone in it for the journey to improve and to kind of analyze your games alone without much context to go off of and just straight look at the moves and think about them, it can be a lot and it can be very difficult to process everything. And I think that if we were a little more open about talking to each other during games and talking about other people's games, it can help us as a community learn a lot more about each game and about our thought processes during each game. And I think it's a good opportunity for people who are stronger to teach people who are weaker and to be able to ask questions and understand where the strong players are thinking about and where the weak players seem to have a misunderstanding. I think during games is really a missed opportunity for all of us when we talk about how to learn with Go and how to really familiarize ourselves with the moves. So what I think that maybe could be a solution to this, and I want to start this kind of experiment, is to start something called a kibitzing game. It's something that you kind of need a little bit of a critical mass of kibitzers for, because the current state of OGS, you go online and maybe there are a couple people who want to talk about games, but like they're all spread out into different games. And so you need like a little reason to gather at a certain game and talk about it, like a pro game or a qualifier game or something like that, which is what happens, but not always for a pro game, for some kind of a layman game. To be able to say like, hey, this is a kibitzing game and you're welcome to come in and talk about it during the game would be great. And I would love to actually do that with people and talk about games. But it needs, like I said, a critical mass of kibitzers. So I'm thinking maybe what I'll do is, I don't know if maybe after I record this episode or when this episode launches in the Discord, I will see if there are any volunteers for this experiment and see how that goes. And I'll go from there. Obviously, you get too many kibitzers in one room, then that's the time you branch out into multiple kibitzing games at a time. But we'll see how popular the concept is. I think that one very big obstacle for this, if I'm doing this on OGS, is that you can't see the public observer chat. And I understand why by default you can't do it and why there's no feature to do it, because overall kibitzing is not really in the spirit of the game when we're taking the game seriously and we're trying to compete with one another. But there is a reason to maybe allow the observer chat to be visible to the players themselves. So I would love it if OGS added some kind of kibitzing game tag or check mark on the game so that people are A, aware that you're allowed to kibitz during this game, and B, we can actually kibitz and talk about the game with the players as they're playing. I think that would be great. But for now, I guess what we'd have to do is just have the observers talk amongst themselves, and maybe through some other channel, the players can also talk through the moves with the others. But Another thing is I think I would want to do this with correspondence, because the thing about live games is you got to have not only multiple people around, but at the same time. And, we have people from all sorts of time zones coming together for Go here. And so what I would say is correspondence is probably the best. And I think it would be fun just to talk about moves and give opinions, especially if there are people that in the community, and like to be able to talk about the game. Because I think when people bring their played games to their familiar community, people love to talk about the game and give them advice and say, this is what I think about this move and that. But like I said, it's a lot of delayed feedback. So I think it would be kind of a cool idea to try doing this kind of kibitzing game thing. There's actually a website I have mentioned in the past called Go Kibitz, which is a fantastic website. Unfortunately, it's in perpetual alpha. It's been in alpha as long as I've known, but it's a great site to upload your games, and people talk about. It's an amazing like public review site where you upload the game and people just randomly talk about what you should have done and what you shouldn't have done. And I love that website, and I wish there were more. Wish it was more supported and more popular, or I wish OGS had a similar feature where you kind of put a game up for review and people just randomly see the feed of the new games put up for review and people review the game. I think that's a missing feature kind of on OGS. But yeah, like I said, Go Kibitz it says it's in alpha, and it's been in alpha forever. But I believe it's still kind of semi-active. And I also wanted to mention, I stumbled upon this Go Humor page on Sensei's library called Get Strong at Kibitz, which is a play on the whole Get Strong series. There's a book series where it's like Get Strong at the opening, Get Strong at Endgame. This one is called Get Strong at Kibitz. And it's just like this like little article explaining what this book contains. On the front page, it says, or on the front cover, it's just like a snapshot of people talking about a game, which I've never seen a game as lively as that one in terms of the discussion. I would love to see a state where you walk into any game and people are chatting it up like that. That would be amazing. But I want to read some of it for you. This fantastic new book provides the mid-queue and relatively weak player with all the skills and know-how to become strong in the fine art of game kibitz. With this book, you will learn many of the professional kibitz secrets, enabling you to confidently and authoritatively kibitz the games of strong Don players and pro players. This book will teach you many skills, including how to comment a game using chatter, which to the untrained eye appears unrelated. Special selection for what's on television, favorite beer, and the weather outside. I'd actually welcome that, like that kind of irrelevant go talk around the game. How to draw attention to your comments with skillful use of capital letters and excessive punctuation. How to demonstrate that you're much stronger than mid-queue by predicting the coordinates of the next high Don move without any explanation or qualification. And how to keep a low profile on those rare occasions when you're completely wrong. Maximizing your available kibitz space by using TXT chat. OMG, it's so cool you won't be able to believe your eyes. Man, this is like, when was this written? This smells of 2000s. I mean, it was last edited in 2022 for some reason. I'm trying to find out. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, there's just a load of silly little things about this. Get strong at kibitz. I feel like kibitzing was a lot bigger in the Go culture before, but I don't know why. I feel like people don't talk about kibitzing as much. But yeah, I feel like we need to bring it back. So I think we should bring back kibitzing. But now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and the tip of the day is watch out for the fake eye. So you know what a fake eye is, hopefully, and you might be comfortable in thinking that that's all there is to it. But sometimes you see a fake eye and it's not a fake eye. It's a real eye. because sometimes it's a fake eye shape, but if part of that shape branches out into a group that has an eye already, oftentimes you can't capture that group so that eye becomes real. Does that make sense? Sometimes fake eyes are not always fake. Just read it out and see if it's capturable and verify if it's a fake eye or not. If you ignore it, sometimes, likely the people of your skill level, they will also ignore it and think that it's a fake eye. But this is how you get stronger. You start noticing things that people around your skill level cannot notice. So watch out for the fake eye. Verify that fake eyes are actually fake by reading and seeing if it's capturable. And now it's time for listener mail. Dalen writes, "Hello, Justin. I like the idea of game shows like The Devil's Plan in theory. However, I dislike it entirely in practice. Maybe spoilers? All right, watch out everyone for Devil's Plan spoilers. When there are only a few people remaining, it can be interesting, but when people start making the game nearly irrelevant and play a social aspect on how to not really play the game, I become incredibly uninterested. If enough people band together, I feel it breaks the spirit of how I would want it to be, people trying to do their best at a game." I have a very similar sentiment about these kind of shows. I think that, here's in defense of Devil's Plan. This is one of the shows where, as much as you can band together and group and bully other people, the thing is, this game forces you to do the betrayals and do the bullying through the gameplay mechanics themselves, and it's different from other survival type shows where people simply vote each other out. They just kind of say like, I don't like this person. Like this person made me a little upset at the way they were talking to all of us, so we're gonna vote them out, right? That's typically what the game shows are like. And luckily in Devil's Plan, that's not really a thing. That you actually just eliminate each other, but you worked together to eliminate other people that are your enemies. Which, I understand you not enjoying that part, and but I think I want to give Devil's Plan credit for that much at least, because yes, I've watched countless of these kinds of reality shows, and the whole social aspect, although it can make for some good TV, sometimes when the games are actually good, I get disappointed. I'm like, this person seriously was the best player at the games, but did not win because of the social reasons. So you might be more interested in something like Physical 100, but those are, I don't know, there's something about those competition shows which are kind of like, I think it's the topics, right? Like you have these cooking shows and Physical 100 and things like that, which are like competition shows, but they don't have a social spin on it. But the topic is not like, they're not playing games. They are playing games, but like Physical 100 is more about like physical force. And so like, I would see that a show where it's purely about the gameplay and just like a grand tournament of games would be amazing. I would love to see that as well. I definitely feel a lot of the sentiments that you expressed here, and is one of the reasons why I don't like this one game called Cosmic Encounter. It's like it's an interesting board game, but it's so dependent on alliances, and if people just ally to ruin you, then it's game over. So I totally get that. So Dalen here has some responses to a few of the episodes. So next one, Go is sometimes Go is a chore. I've forgotten my Fox information, and playing against people who don't really pose a challenge is boring. Oh wow, I would love to have that problem. Why don't you create a new account with a higher level? Or are you like, is there a limit? What's the high limit? I guess that would be a chore to grind back up to your skill level. I for one would love to sandbag on noobs for a while to get to the level I'm at, but I'm pretty sure I can set any new Fox account to my current level, which is like a 1 Fox. But anyway, inherently, I don't believe that it is a chore overall. I really enjoy trying ideas and making things work. With that said, I think the sheer amount of effort to improve at something is always difficult to want to do. We want the results with as little effort as possible. This is why I only ever suggest that people spend their time studying/doing the parts that they enjoy the most so as not make it feel like work. Yeah. Actually though, like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I get in a rut of not even doing the things that I would normally enjoy doing. And you know, if your advice is to tell people to just do what they enjoy, and they've been doing that for years and they're still stuck at the same rank, then it's like, man, like, you know, you realize you got to do a little more than that. And so it feels that at that point, maybe it feels like a try. Anyway, continuing. I love the crew analogy to this episode. So this is the salty crew episode. I'd for sure add some more people, a quartermaster to keep your calculations in check, the motivation to get a stronger crew. I'd also love the idea of a carpenter on board. I believe it could refer to keeping yourself in a good environment mentally and be able to function in any circumstance. For many, me included in this, suffer from really bad anxiety. It doesn't have to do with the game itself, but it will impact how the game can unfold. Learning how to handle many outside of game issues can greatly help with how you play. Yeah, those are great ideas. There's definitely that mental, almost soft skill aspect of the game, where it's not about the mechanics of the game themselves, but like it's about you and your emotional mental state, like your body and your emotions and your psychology. It's all part of the game as well. It's kind of crazy, right? How much goes into a game of Go and how much can be considered. I believe half of my crew is strong. I don't think I calculate poorly, but my reading could use work. My navigator is constantly getting replaced. I change how I want to play frequently, so I learn how to manage most types of positions. Overall, I wouldn't say it's my weakest area, but it is one I try to improve more than others. My captain is good enough. I wouldn't say that it's my weakness or strength, but I do things that I believe work. I try to keep the game within something that I can manage. As for my carpenter, they have been slacking. I constantly fall into my anxiety and emotional sides of the game when it's important. I get a hole in the ship during pivotal games. Time pressure ends up feeling like it's strangling, and the game can just end up feeling so much more difficult. Man, that is tough. I think sometimes that kind of anxiety, and you know, obviously it can strangle you and make the game worse, but I think there's a certain level of that also drives you to be better and try more and apply yourself to the game, because I think there are a lot of players who treat the game almost too casually and they don't get anxious at all about it, and they just kind of throw the stones down and they're just like, whatever happens, and they don't really apply, because maybe they're afraid of getting too attached and becoming like that and becoming anxious with it. And people have this like tug of war with themselves. I see it all the time where people just kind of either get too deep into it and get so anxious that they hate the game, or they are afraid of that, so they detach themselves and they just don't even care about the game at all because they don't want to do that. That's why Go is it's not just a difficult game in terms of the intellect and the amount of strategy and tactics involved, but also just for your psyche. It's a tough game. My quartermaster tries sometimes. Keeping constant motivation for my crew to keep improving comes and goes like the tide. Fortunately, I'm now getting lessons in a more strange light, not necessarily looking for game reviews and to play them, but to have a first mate to help keep all of my crew in line, give goals for how much to play, how many sumego I should actually do, and if needed, just show me some error in my thinking or a specific thing to work on from observing some of my games. I review almost all of my games with the AI trying to improve, which is effective to a degree, but for those of us who need someone to yell at them to help hit their goals, I believe having some sort of teacher or friend can help greatly to give one accountability for hitting these goals. Best regards, Dalen. Thank you so much for your thoughts, Dalen. I like your additional crew members, and I know that my quartermaster is the one that is... Wait, I thought you said it was the one that keeps your calculations in check. Oh, I see. It's kind of like yeah, it's like even a more abstract level. But yeah, I think that's the part that's failing for me. I'm not motivating my crew very much. My crew is there ready for a game of Go, but the quartermaster is like, you guys don't have to work, you're on holiday. And so I think that's the part that I need to work on. But I do want to play. You know what's funny is like that flame never goes out. I still like have this flame in my heart that's like, I want to play Go, but I just don't. And I haven't been playing as much. I think a lot of you are probably in the same place as I am, but here we are talking about Go, listening to people talk about Go, and that's something. Thanks again, Dalen, for your listener mail. Sadaharu writes, in my opinion, judgment should come after calculation. After intuition, the player should use calculation to verify that it works and what are the possible outcomes, and then use judgment to decide which outcome to go for. I can't think of a nice acronym for that, though. Well, you don't need to think of a nice acronym. Okay, I want to discuss this a little bit. So I see where you're coming from, and that's actually my normal thought process, right? My intuition will say, hey, what about this? And I'll use calculation to go, okay, let's think about it, and let's see if that works. But what happens if like there's something glaring, like something that you haven't considered, and it's like a weakness on the board that you haven't spotted yet, or I don't know. I just feel maybe sometimes calculating it out will have gone to waste if that move isn't going to be the one you're going to play after all of that. I don't know. I guess I'd love to hear more about why you think judgment should come after calculation, even though I do that often sometimes, but I'm kind of saying you shouldn't do that. Anyway, let me also add some other crew members. Oh, I like it. I like how you guys are all adding crew members. Cook ensures that the player is physically fit, which is more and more important nowadays. It's hard to fight the youngsters if you don't have enough energy. Very good. Yeah, that's, just with that, you've revealed again how much of a holistic approach you need to take with things like this, where you have to really take into account like so many aspects of your life for a good quality game. It's like if you haven't slept, right, that really affects your game. I know this because I've experienced it. Doctor ensures that the player is mentally fit. If you are feeling mentally weak or depressed, it's hard to make the correct decisions. Swordsman/fighter ensures that the player has fighting spirit. Even if you can calculate correctly and judge correctly, sometimes you may tend to go for the easy option when the stronger move is totally possible. In this case, fighting spirit, or kisei in Korean and kiai in Japanese, is very important. I can also think of how do I say this word? Strategician, etc. But I'll stop here for now. Yeah, I love these ideas. I think I like the whole swordsman fighter thing as well. Yeah, a lot of people don't have enough fighting spirit. I have tried to tame down my fighting spirit. I'm in a stage where I really am trying to figure out where the best place to apply fighting spirit is, instead of cutting in the opening and the Joseki and just losing to that. That's probably something I've gone through. But I like your new additions, and like I said, it just shows how much goes into a single game of Go and how much of ourselves a game asks of us. So for the question of the week this week is, do you have any interesting kibitzing stories or opinions? Has something happened where somebody kibitzed during a game, or have you kibitzed during a game, or what memories do you have talking about Go with people during games? I'd love to know. So if you want to share your thoughts on that question, or if you have any other Go related thing to share, leave a comment wherever you found this episode, or email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. A very, very special thank you as always to James B, Brendan S, Tristan, Jeff H, and Tyraniton for supporting Starpoint. If you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to ko-fi.com/starpointpaduk, that's KO-FI, or check out the Starpoint store at store.starpointpaduk.com. And come on over to the Discord, the link is in the description. You know why the French use ghost stones to build little houses? They use little ghost, well, just regular sized ghost stones to build little houses because they call it Lego. Thank you for listening. Keep playing Go.